I ordered myself the high profile, which you can't really tell because it doesn't really matter, but that's what I'm using here. Um, and it's good. I like it. I like it a lot.
Are you using the extension that comes with it?
The thing that the riser.
Yeah, the riser. Yeah.
No, but I am using that on the low profile. Funnily enough, so
I
on
like
the
my low profile to be up
I
high.
want my low profile high and my high profile low.
Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel, a podcast about entertainment, games, life, a little bit of everything between. With me today is my buddy Nick, the guy who, on this joyous day of 420, he not only lights up in the morning but in the evening, and he happens to celebrate like I don't know, 365 days a year, just but religiously every morning at 420. It's kind of crazy. How do you keep that up, Nick?
Well, I today I was gonna clean my room, um, but then I got high. I was gonna get up and find the broom, but then I got high. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. I just
Did,
do you want to start
did
over?
you actually see the police raid his house?
Oh, the
Um,
Afro Man. That's Afro Man, right?
yeah. So
I
they they
remember
they
that
raided his
vaguely.
place. He recently came out with recently, like last couple months, but he came out with multiple videos, asking the police why they're like because apparently they were supposed to be kidnapping and all this other drug paraphernalia, and
Mm.
there's they're searching his pockets of his his jackets and stuff like that, and it's really funny. And then the police decided to countersue because he made them look like fools, because they didn't find anything, and he had it all on video. So yeah, it's pretty funny.
That's
uh
actually really ironic that Afro Man did not have any paraphernalia on him. Uh, that's pretty good for him. That's cool. I forgot about all that. I remember he got raided, but I think that was the where I dropped off and paying attention to it.
yeah, I forgot all about it until not that long ago. I don't know, maybe a month ago, where they're talking about the counter, the police trying to sue him. So, but I'm your host today for this episode of 420. My name is Joe, and this is episode 42. How ironic.
That's kind
Uh,
of weird. That is sort of there's a 4 to 2. There's not an O.
but
That's
then if
interesting.
the 4-2 followed by the 20. So there you go.
Maybe
Yep,
our
that's you.
episode 420, we'll have to wait until 420 to do that episode.
It's all someone's doing the numerology there, and you know it's the end of the world or something. Watch. So,
Probably. The rate we're
or
going,
the
it'll
answer to the
be
universe. Yeah.
at the rate we're going, it'll probably be like 2055 before we hit that. So
Yep.
anyway, here we go.
All right. Well, how have you been, man? It's been a couple weeks. So, anything new and exciting happened to you?
Yeah, sort of. So, uh, 2 weekends ago, I was out having lunch with some friends, came back to my truck, and found that my driver's side mirror had been blasted off, and it was just hanging there by the wire. So I set about I set about trying to replace it. So I called my dad. I was like, "Hey, how do you replace this?" And he was like, "Here, let me look it up." I was thinking it's going to be like $250, $300 to replace it, but it actually only ended up being about $50 to get the part. And then I came over to my dad's house, and he's like, I think he just watched a YouTube video, and he was like, so this is really all you got to do. So he popped the door off, popped a few parts off, changed it out, rehooked up the wire, and it was good to go. But for a while there, I was driving around with my mirror dangling on the side of my truck. I lost you. I don't have volume on you.
Because duct tape isn't a thing.
Well, it would not have worked in this sense. Um, I would have had to roll the window down. Yeah, that would not have.
You just cut it a little bit, roll it, tuck it in.
It would not have
I don't know,
worked.
man.
It would not have worked.
Bust out the hot glue gun, then, man.
What I did do until the part came though I did screw. Basically, I created two holes in the door panel where the mirror goes, and was able to use zip ties to hold it
Okay.
up. So I only drove around for about 12 hours, basically home and then to work, and then I did it in the parking lot at work because during lunchtime. So yeah, that was exciting, annoying, but overall it wasn't so bad. Anyway, so that's me. How have you been, Joe?
I've been busy. Yeah. Just a lot of small things here and there. Getting ready for some friends and family come in from out of state. So prepping for that. But yeah, I don't know. Weather here in the Chicagoland area has been crazy. So we had was it snow on Monday, and we're back to hot temperatures and thunderstorms yesterday and today. So
Yeah,
it's yeah, kind of
s-
odd.
somebody I work with, I'm on calls with at work, is in Chicago, and he was like, he said, I forget what he said exactly, but he said like it was 90 yesterday and it's snowing today. I was like, that is wild. I mean, we have some pretty crazy temperature changes in Texas, but snowing from like 90 to snowing is we never had that. So it's
Yeah,
wild.
it wasn't quite 90, but yeah, it was in the 70s over the weekend, and
Okay.
then yeah, Monday, sure enough, it just dropped, and we had snow on the ground as the morning, and then by the evening, it was pretty much gone. But yeah, it's been temperamental to be at least.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
as a thank you to my dad for ordering that part and stuff, and because he ordered what I believed to be an inferior mic arm, I went ahead and got him um, the same mic arm that I had been using for a while, the Elgato low profile. But while I was at
all
it,
right.
I ordered myself the high profile, which you can't really tell because it doesn't really matter. But that's what I'm using here, um, and it's good. I like it. I like it a lot.
Um, are you using the extension that comes with it?
The thing that the riser.
Yeah, the riser. Yeah,
No, but I am using that on the low profile. Funnily enough, so
I
on
like
the
my low profile to be up
I
high.
want my low profile high and my high profile low. So the reason why I'm using it on the low profile is because I that mic I have right next to my mouse hand, and when it's set to normal, I can put my hand underneath it, but it's really awkward, and if I forget, then I'll bump it, and it sucks. So I actually raise it up so it's out of the way, but since it's just raised up and then straight perpendicular over, it works out for me pretty well. Anyway,
Okay. Yeah, we're not sponsored, by the way, guys. So
we're not sponsored, but I do really like Elgato. At least their mic arms. I have several of their products actually. They make good stuff. They
I'd
make good
say
stuff.
who can stream with who really streams with at least one or two of their products.
For real. I
So
mean, like as far as mic arms go, I mean there are better ones out there. There's like that Pro Arm or whatever that you see on the really ritzy podcasts. But it's like $1,000 or like $600, something crazy like that. That's really nice. But I'm not going to spend that much money on a mic arm. However, for the price of like $80, which is weird because I just dropped it down to that recently, it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat.
yeah, I know the only real competitor in that space is the AverMedia low profile, and that one's from what I've seen reviews on it's pretty solid as well. Yeah, I'm just using the mic arm that came with when I bought my mic secondhand. So I'm just gonna stick with that. Uh, so yeah, it's no. I mean, I'm glad you were able to help out your dad. But then what did he do with the old mic arm? Is he using it for like a light or something, or
Uh,
a camera mount?
well, like whenever he got it in, I was looking at it and I was just like, I told you to buy the low profile mic arm. And I also told him, hey, when you want to buy a a mic arm, let me know. I think I can get a pack of them on eBay, and then I can get a pack of like refurbished or used ones. It'll be fine, on eBay for a little bit cheaper. Um, and he didn't tell me. He just went ahead and bought some random. It's some random brand that I've never heard of before. Lo and behold, he gets it in, and all of the key parts are plastic, and the knobs are really iffy. It's brand new right now, but I'm just like, that is not gonna hold up very long. So I was like, well, I can use this time to go ahead and get him another one. But it is what it is. Yeah, I forgot what your question was.
I was just wondering what you guys did with the old mic arm.
Oh, he still has it. Because he has. I have dreams of him starting a podcast for himself. Because I think he'd actually be really good at it. He's very much a talker. Even I would say that I'm not a talker in real life, but he's like a talker in real life, and people like to he always has people hanging out and stuff. And he has some extra space in his life, in his setup, that he could make a pretty cool podcast studio. So I'm like, you should start a podcast. So, he's been kicking around the idea, and I was like, here, if you have an extra mic arm, then you'll make use of it if and when you start a podcast. So he just has both now.
All right. Well, good for him, and that was nice of you to to show your thanks that way instead of just being like, yeah, thanks for the help, and that's your that's your duty as my father. So
I'm a really good son.
that's for you to say and no one else.
You're right, Joe.
All right.
It's for me to decide.
So all right. Well, what do you got for us this week, man, on the news docket? I know you have a few things here. So yeah, it looks like Final Fantasy or something like that. I have no idea what's this about.
Yeah. So I did put Nintendo Showcase here on the docket, but I hadn't really looked through what the showcase entailed. So we might just skip over that, because it looks like it's just some indie games and stuff, which is cool, but nothing is really catching my eye to be something that I really want to talk about. Maybe I'll regret saying that later, but for now, so we'll just skip over that whenever it comes time. But yeah, the first thing I have up is Final Fantasy 16 State of Play. So PlayStation does State of Play every once in a while. It's their answer to the Nintendo. What does Nintendo do? They call it Direct. It's like their answer to the Nintendo Direct. I'm drinking, people. I'm drinking. So it's gonna be wild. Anyway, so they decided to do a Final Fantasy 16 State of Play, and I was like, let me watch this for a minute. And dadgummit, Final Fantasy 16, it looks kind of good, Joe. It looks kind of good, man. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and that's probably not play it not because I really don't want to, but because I don't have the time. So yeah.
So it is coming out it's coming out like in mid to late June. So is Street Fighter 6 and Diablo 4. So dang, like that is going to be a really packed release window for June. Yeah, so looking through the State of Play, it looks like a action RPG in 2023. it definitely looks like that. Um, it is quite beautiful. A lot of sparkle effects, things like that going on. Um, Main guy seems okay. He seems a little bit more Devil May Cry than I would have opted for, but it's what they decided to go with. Um, I didn't get to see too much of the HUD, so I was a little bit kind of concerned there. But all in all, the gameplay looks pretty good, looks pretty fun. Um, yeah, so I was pretty set on skipping this one or perhaps putting it off till way later to play because there's so much coming out around that time. But now I'm not so sure. I think it is still third of those three games that I will be making time to play. But you know, it definitely kind of won me over more seeing it in that state than in previous times that it's been shown.
Yeah, no, it looks great. It's just once again, yeah, I just don't see myself playing it anytime soon. But I was gonna say for the Nintendo Direct or that came out, the showcase. I mean, I thought you'd be excited about your showing your skills off in the Rift of the Necrodancer.
Oh man, I forgot about that coming out. Yeah, I played the first one for a little while, um, and I got to the second level, or I guess the second world. Anyway, that game is really hard, so I am not sure how much I will actually, how much time I would dedicate or money to Rift of the Necrodancer if it's going to be that level of difficulty. I don't know. Are
Yeah,
you excited for
yeah,
it?
I liked the first game.
Oh, it's a
I
great
was
game.
also really bad at it,
Yes.
and
Yes.
like that game was just I don't know. I for some reason I like rhythm games. I had a hard time wrapping my head around that for some reason. A slightly easier time with the Hyrule
Oh,
version. I'm trying to remember the name of that off the top of my head. It's slipping me, and that one was better. But at the same time, I just it was just I see what it's doing. I just can't quite get behind it. I don't know. It's just there's a disconnect for me in that game. Uh, but I appreciate what it does.
I mean,
I'm actually excited about for I was Oxenfree 2 though.
well, hang on a second.
That they
As
announced.
far as rhythm games go, I was able to do that one better than most of the ones that you show me. But still, it was like I felt like I could get there. I could keep going, get better, and like there was a path forward. Unlike other rhythm games where I kind of just get freaking destroyed pretty early on and don't really have a way to keep progressing. But for this one, I was able to do it okay. But still, yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit too busy of a season. But yeah, Oxenfree, I never played the first one. It was on my list, but I never got around to it. So Oxenfree 2, yeah, that actually does pique my interest a little bit. Are you excited for it?
The first game was a lot of fun. Awesome soundtrack. Or at least if what I remember, I really liked it. I remember looking at the vinyl when they had it released, and I just didn't have a player at the time, so I was like, I'm just gonna buy it just to hold on to it. I'm like,
Oh,
I couldn't justify it, so
oh.
I yeah, kind of kicking myself in the now, but it's
Is it
it is
still
what it
for
is.
sale? The
I've
record?
seen it here and there, but I'm pretty sure it was just a limited run type of.
Oh,
I don't know if it was actually from limited run. I forgot who actually was selling it. Um, so it could have been limited run, but it could have been one of two other places as well. And like I said, it was really solid. It had a good story. It was a fun. Uh, I like kind of like the adventure game slash like story base, and that's pretty much what it was. It was a lot of story in it, not really a lot of quote unquote gameplay.
yeah.
So if you don't like games like Kentucky Route Zero or something like that, then it may not be for you. But I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the second one. I actually didn't see the trailer because I wanted to know as little as possible. I'm just like, oh man, they're making a sequel. Whether it's a sequel in name alone or if it's continuing the story with the same characters, I don't know. And I'm literally just going to try to be as blind as I can going into it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah, I remember hearing people talk about it, and I think it actually came out for it came out on phones too, right?
Probably.
I think
I
it
know it came
did.
out on almost everything else, so it
Yeah.
wouldn't surprise me if it was on phones.
So yeah, pick that up and let me know how it goes, because if you really like it, then I might jump on with that. That feels like a game that might land on Game Pass. I don't know if they've said whether it will or not, but it feels like a game that you could release on Game Pass and maybe get a lot more people playing.
Yeah, because it is supposed to be slated for pretty much everything, so that doesn't surprise me. But yeah, for sure. When that does happen, I'll let you know.
Okay.
But honestly, play the first one. It's fun if it's not that long. In the grand scheme of today's games, and yeah, it's worth a little bit of your time. Yeah. What else we got for the news?
So the people over at Techland put out some feelers. Um, they asked their fans what kind of hero they'd like to play as in a potential Dying Light 3. So um, they put a disclaimer in there saying that this is not a Dying Light 3 announcement, but it's definitely not a Dying Light 3 disannouncement. So it seems like they're interested in making another one, which I think a lot of people will be happy to hear about. So I kind of just brought this story up because I wanted to hear what you thought about a potential Dying Light 3.
I mean, I like the progression and the differences between 1 and 2. I thought it was a good move forward. Granted, Dying Light 2 was muddled with some delays, and they had to restructure the entire, or not the entire, but restructured quite a bit of the gameplay, because when they were first announcing it, they were really talking about like a dynamic world. One of the early missions was supposed to be like, yeah, if you side with one group, um, you're actually going to you'll actually end up drain, like there's water around a city encampment, and so it's blocking off other people, and if you leave that up, that that landscape is that way. But if you join the other team, you can actually drain the water and then free up that whole part of the city, making all new quests and this and that, and also then making the enemies that much more, like the zombies and stuff, to able to traverse that area. That they were toting some really big ideas, and unfortunately they had to kind of scrapple all that. And so it was really, I came into Dying Light 2 with a lot of hesitation, but it was a lot of fun. Turns out they made a pretty solid game. Unfortunately, I did not get as far as I would like to have in it, but I did enjoy my time with it. So to see them, uh, if they do a third one, maybe they'll finally bring some of those ideas they had for 2 into fruition, especially with the new hardware and the next generation consoles, because essentially they were starting that project with last gen in mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's but I don't know if I don't remember if Deep Silver is still, I mean, Technoland is developing it, but I don't know if who's publishing it. So I know they were a lot of the same staff was originally part of the original Dead Island game, and
Right.
conveniently enough, Dead Island 2 is releasing finally tomorrow. So I don't know if it has any correlation to do with that is as well, or maybe just because of the new release, they're like, hey, this is kind of piggybacking off that news, maybe.
Okay. Well, maybe. Yeah. I mean, maybe they'll be able to put in a lot of those ideas that they had that they weren't able to implement in the second game. Maybe they've got them ready to go, and they can make good use of them, because that does sound pretty cool. Some of the things you mentioned.
I mean, yeah, it was a lot more, clear cut. Like, oh yeah, if you go this route, you're legitimately just uh cutting, like you're choosing a path that will block you from other story avenues. While in the end, this game was like, you get to choose some different stories, but in the end, you're still wish washing between two factions, and and from what I felt like by the end of the game, you would have a hard choice between faction A or faction B, or maybe a faction C. But it's like what you did up until that point kind of doesn't matter too much. I mean, unless if you're following like a trophy list and you're like, I have to dedicate myself to one tree. And it's kind of like how a lot of those games, like Mass Effect or something, in the end, being Renegade or Paragon doesn't matter until the final decisions, and then it's like that's what really overall changes the entire thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting. I think it would be cool to see a new game on next gen, current gen hardware, that's like dedicated, made for it. So should be pretty
for
cool.
sure. All right, then what else you got for us?
So finally, there's some news about Redfall that people were a little bit perturbed with, I believe. Apparently, there's been a lot of uh, statements about Redfall being 60 FPS. At least that was the plan, and now it is coming out at 30 FPS on on is it all systems, or just is it just Xbox?
Yeah, so it is a Microsoft exclusive,
Okay.
I believe. So because it's done by Bethesda Studios is publishing it, and I'm forgetting who's developing it off the top of my head. Yeah, it's going to be PC and Xbox. The all the original footage was, or a lot of the footage was touting 60 FPS, and you're looking at this. This is supposed to be one of their big, first party studios. This is something they've been really pumping for a while, and then to kind of pull the rug out from underneath you, and just be like, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and release the 60 later, but for now you get 30. So really curious why that is. Um, if it wasn't ready in time, you feel like you need to delay it instead, but it's kind of maybe because I think it's been pushed back once before already. Most things are nowadays, but because most things are pushed back, what does it matter? I mean, you should be able to feel free to push it back even more to make sure you come out with a really satisfying product instead of a disappointment for some people. And so they come in with automatically injured expectations. They're like, okay, and they're gonna judge it even harsher than maybe they normally would, just because it's like, well, they've already envisioned something better. They've kind of seen something better. And so this game has to be really flawless and has to pull it off really solid in order for this to appease people, I think.
Yeah, I think delaying is always the better choice if you have to. Obviously, you don't want to make a delay, but if a game is not ready, then the game's not ready. Because I mean, like people like you and me who are a little bit more in the weeds with the news and how games work and stuff like that, we are um, a lot more likely to kind of give give new games a chance if if we're hearing good things about them, or give second tries a chance, if we've heard that like that's going to improve. But I think like your average gamer, maybe like average gamer kid, is just going to be like, if they get Redfall and it's not great, they're just gonna be like, I'm just not gonna play it. I'm just gonna return it, or whatever. And
Well, that's one of the promises with the new machines is a lot of people are now having the expectations of a minimum of 60 frames. I mean, some of the machines on the box, tout 120, and that was more or less misleading, just like PlayStation and like clearly in the box 8K. Yes, in a still image or very limited case scenario, but that's just them, overhyping themselves, and that's fine. So, we understand that these machines aren't really made for 120 in most situations, if as far as if you have high fidelity, but 60 should be acceptable from across the board. It's one of those things that I've only recently started really playing at 60, and it is very noticeable. In fact, I was playing with the new Resident Evil game, which I'll talk about later, and going from the 30 to the 60, or at least the higher frame rate, is actually noticeable. But then again, there's also other issues with that game, which is another reason why I've had to switch it. But same with Dead Space. Dead Space, I was happy to go with the higher frame rate. That and essentially that was the first time I really noticed it was with Dead Space as well. It was like, yeah, I think I need to be at 60. I've never really felt that way before, but having played at 30 and then swapping monitors, I'm like, all right, now I'm on to my 4K TV with playing at 60. I'm like, yep, this is a noticeable difference. And trying to downsample it, I'm like, or going back to 30, I'm like, I actually do notice the difference, and I'm not going to play it this way. And some people are really, really uptight about that. But once again, once you're used to it and you've been playing so many things at 60 or higher, dropping to 30 is rough. People try to argue it's more cinematic, but it's not the same.
Okay.
You also get the input lag.
Yeah.
The lower the frame rate, the better. They have to make it really tight for you not to notice the input lag. So if you're playing a lot of games that are responsive at 60 or 120, and then you drop to 30, you're like, ooh, feels like you're going through mud. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit too much, but like I was saying a little earlier, if you um like most people aren't really going to care, and they're not really going to give a game like a second chance or a studio a second chance. And they're not going to know about the hubbub, about delays or anything like that. They're just going to be like, was this game good? Did Redfall 1 uh, like make me have fun? So when Redfall 2 comes out in the future, they're going to go, oh, I remember Redfall 1. That was fun. Here's Redfall 2. I wonder what else they have in store for me. And they buy it then. So, like, kind of like the larger point of like, should you delay if you need to? The answer is yeah. You really need to, even if it's just over something that some people find minor, like 30 FPS or 60 FPS, especially if you're Microsoft and you really don't have that many games that are specific and exclusive to Microsoft. You know, like you need every one of those to be important games that make your fan base kind of proud to own your product. I would say so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a weird situation now because so many things are being developed on PC, and the consoles are more similar than ever. So you're getting less and less console exclusives. I mean, the last Microsoft exclusive that was really good was Hi-Fi Rush, and then outside of that, there really wasn't anything that was came out just swinging and just like hitting a home run. I mean, because when you got Okay, we're back. We had some technical issues. Um, Texas is having some storms, and the power grid isn't really the best.
yeah,
So,
that's
uh,
kind of true. That's definitely kind of true. The power did blink, and for about 1 full second, and then came back on. So yeah, one of those things. It doesn't happen very often, though. Thankfully,
well, didn't they have the huge power grid issues just like a year or so ago?
to us is what I mean. But for the past 3 years, you're right. It has been 3 years in a row. There has been grid issues every year. So at least in Austin. So yeah,
Yeah,
that is
we've had the power go out on my end like right after our podcast. I remember that happened before.
yeah.
But all right, I think the last I was talking about was Hi-Fi Rush, just being the last solid Microsoft exclusive, and how pretty much a lot of the stuff that's come out that Microsoft for, like Halo, has come out lackluster to say the least. I mean, you don't have all the feature sets. People are not very happy with the way it looks, and eventually the things get there, but it takes time. And Microsoft's been taking a lot of hits as far as their console exclusives. While you got, on the other hand, Sony, who comes out with things like God of War, which is just phenomenal, and very little issues across the board with a lot of their primary stuff. So it's kind of a quality assurance thing, right? I mean, Microsoft's winning it as far as the overall package with Game Pass and everything else, and they're offering more on the table in my opinion. But at the same time, there's if you have a computer and you're willing to wait for some things, you're kind of better off just not necessarily going with an Xbox per se. Uh, it's to each their own. But PlayStation, on the other hand, they do have some solid exclusives. But now, as well, they're starting to become more and more PC focused, or PC second. And what used to be only on a console and never seeing the light of day on a PC, well, unless it was pirated, yeah, then now they're starting to release some stuff. So everything's going to be a little more ambiguous, but if you want the day and day, day one releases, I mean, Sony provides better day ones. And so when it comes to something like Redfall, where people have been really, anticipating this, or at least hoping for it in a lot of good ways, and then also you come out, yay, we're getting the experience that you weren't necessarily hoping for, and we weren't showing. So we hope you're happy with it. And all I can say is I really do hope it turns out really well because, a lot of people worked really hard on it and who knows what happened behind the scenes, but chances are it's going to be automatically flayed from day one just because everyone's like, you know what, this is it may be a good game, it may be a phenomenal game, but they'll say it's better. It would have been better if it was at 60. I mean, no matter what, people will not be happy. So
Yeah, that's true. It just would have been better to try to give people what they want, even if it's a little bit later than they wanted it. That seems to be the smart thing to do from my perspective as well. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much it for Redfall.
yeah, all right. So what you been playing, Nick?
I'm playing a couple different things. I dipped into Ghostwire Tokyo a little bit. It's a pretty interesting first-person shooter type game.
So speaking of Tango Gameworks,
Tango Gameworks, yeah, I forgot they did that, but I also didn't know that Bethesda published Ghostwire Tokyo. I was pretty surprised to see their name pop up. I guess I should have known that, but anyway.
but I think Bethesda is Tango Gameworks is under Bethesda.
Yeah, I didn't know who made it or anything like that. I just remember you were talking about it a few months ago, so I wanted to go ahead and give it a try, and it's pretty cool. I only played it for a few minutes because that's kind of the thing about it is that it sort of just feels kind of old. Some of the ideas that they had, at least early on, with the way that you're supposed to shoot enemies or like send their souls to hell or whatever you're really doing. That's kind of cool, but the movement, I started to play with a controller and could not really aim very well. Which is like, well, yeah, you're using a controller. Yeah, but even for a controller, the aiming was really not very good. The shooting did not feel very great. So I switched over to keyboard and mouse, and that was a little bit better, but it was pretty jerky. Like whenever.
Are you playing? So you're playing on the PC then?
Yeah, playing on PC.
All right, because this originally came out on PlayStation, and then it had a year, I believe, exclusivity before it came out on Game Pass.
That's where I'm playing it, Game Pass.
And then what happened was, I know Digital Foundry came out saying that like the Xbox Series version is not as good as the PlayStation one. It hasn't been optimized properly, and there was a lot of small issues. So
yeah, it's not bad to play. It's just like it just feels old. It just feels unpolished. So if you're gonna play it on Game Pass, know that, I suppose. But it seemed interesting enough to be able to play it for free for a little while. But yeah, I've kind of I probably have extinguished how much I'm gonna play of it because of this other game I've been playing that I finally managed to beat, God of War Ragnarok. So I'm not going to talk too much about about this really in general either, because I know Joe, you have a plan to play it at some point fairly
Yeah,
soon, right?
I have it, and it's all loaded, ready to go. But I've gotten too many other newer things that's been taking up my space. But I do plan on going through this. I mean, I platinumed the first one. I really liked it, and I really do hope to sink my teeth into the second one here.
Yeah. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to when you get a good ways through that or finish it and want to talk about it, because we can talk about some of the story stuff that goes on. But I did finish the main story, and I've just been doing a lot of cleanup, a lot of the side missions toward at about the 25-hour mark. I mean, I was always pretty set on trying to finish the game, but right around the 25-hour mark, I was like, all right. Um, it's time to really, or maybe the 20-hour mark, I was like, it's time to really go for the end here. So I really started to make a beeline toward the end, kind of skipping a lot of stuff. So going back through, man, that game is really, it is very, I don't know, it's very like 5 more minutes. Like I just want to play 5 more minutes. I just want to get one more little area, one more puzzle, one more little group of enemies to kill. Maybe I'll just upgrade one thing before turning it up. Maybe I'll upgrade, and then maybe I'll go to the next, like right to where the next mission starts. I'll just hang out there. Well, maybe I'll just start the next mission, pause in the middle. So it just kind of continuously like pulling on you, making you want to just continue to play, more than a lot of other games, and more than a game like that. I would think would typically kind of have that pull on me at least. It's a really great adventure game, and playing it on PS5 on a 4K, 65-inch screen is really, really nice. It is the first game I played. I'd already played it a little bit when I got before I got my new TV, but it was the first game I played after the new TV, and I was like, dang, this makes it almost all worth it. So yeah, it's a good game. For the longest time, I kind of considered Elden Ring as the very obvious game of the year for 2022, but playing through Ragnarok, and getting through the end and stuff, it really is giving Elden Ring a run for its money. I think Elden Ring probably objectively is like a better game, but the story in Ragnarok and the characters and all that stuff, I think Ragnarok might be more memorable overall. And I definitely think I've had more fun with Ragnarok than the 20 something hours that I played of Elden Ring. So yeah, anyway, I'm looking forward to you playing it. It's no surprise to anyone, but it's a good game.
All right, that's cool. I'm surprised to hear that you said in these exact words that God of War is better than Elden Ring. So yeah,
I didn't say that exactly, but okay, if that's what you heard.
uh, that was the takeaway. I believe
Yeah,
everyone
you
heard
would
that.
take that away.
So the yeah, for me though, I've been playing. I played a bit more Dead Space. I mentioned it last time, and it's really good. I really like that game a lot. They did a really good job remaking it. Uh, Honestly, totally worth like the replay. It's it is the same more or less story beats. So it's not like if you played the first, I can understand why you're like, well, I've already treaded this ground before. But the visuals, the some of the quality of life improvements, and just I think it's done in a really great way. It's still one of my favorite games. The original was, and this would be what I'd go to if I wanted to hankering to play the old game. I would just play this instead.
Really?
Uh, yeah, I mean, there's unless if you wanted to do the only real reason is if you wanted to do the in-game cheats, for
Mm,
the original, just to have some fun and make it a little easier yourself, but and play around. But honestly, I like the way they redesigned the ship. The visuals is really great. The fact that on the next gen consoles, or the current gen at least, you have the faster load times makes it wonderful. And like I said, it's just it plays. It kind of is the way I remember the original game to be. I have the original on my 360, but I'm probably not going to fire it up to test it out. I'm just going to play this one, and I did not get a chance to beat it yet. That's because I got sidetracked with another new game. But I'll hopefully get around back to it. But even if I don't, I mean, I still really enjoyed my time with it. It was worth, yeah, it's worth checking out,
That is
hands down.
kind of
Yeah,
that's kind of the sign of a good remake, is it really manages to keep the soul of the old game and makes it go like, yeah, the old game was, great when I played it, but this new remake replaces it because of the upgrades and stuff like that. It manages to keep the fun gameplay and whatever made that old game special. So that's good. I'm really glad to hear that.
yeah. I mean, like I said, and it was the first time that I was really tinkering around with the 60 to 30 frames, and I was like, yeah, I noticed the difference on 60, and it's not it's not terribly, like some people will notice it right away, but me, I was just like, no, I can just notice it enough, and I feel enough as I'm moving. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go with the performance, and I'm not disappointed. And the visuals weren't really a downgrade for me enough to be like, no, I'm perfectly fine with it. But yeah, it is if you want a cosmic horror type of game. I mean, this is still the gold standard, I think. And
Yeah.
with the on the horror topic and remakes, I've played Resident Evil 4 Remake. I'm currently halfway through the game, roughly, and I've really this is also a very well done remake. I think they did enough. Yeah, it's one of those things that Resident Evil 4 was literally a game changer for the entire industry. I mean, the way they did action cinematics, the only thing that they did that didn't hold up is at the time QuickTime events. I mean, that was still a very cool thing. It was very new, and they pretty much done away with almost all QuickTime events in this game, which is great. Uh, the visuals are amazing. I like a lot of. I mean, once again, you can find videos out there complaining about some small things, but I honestly don't. I haven't trained myself enough to really nitpick that bad. I mean, if it's a glaring issue, if it's like shimmering, or if it's if it just doesn't look right, or if there's artifacts popping in, that's one thing. But like a lot of the small things that I've seen complaints on, I'm like, yeah, I can see what you're talking about, but at the same time, I don't really notice it right off the bat. So for the most part, this has been really good, except I'm also playing it on the Xbox. And this Xbox version, they finally got a new patch while I was playing it, but there was a huge dead zone in the original
Yee.
release. So for the Xbox controller, you can push the thumbstick quite a bit before you actually get a response, and that was a big problem. So to mitigate that problem, I ended up just turning on the lock on feature. So essentially, you
Uh,
just pull the trigger. It's almost Call of Duty style,
yeah.
where you're kind of close to an enemy and you'll auto, snap to them, and that helped me get over that. But then one of the newest patches, that helped tighten up that dead zone, and it makes it feel more fluid. I am Since I'm playing on the Xbox, I am not good enough to do the shooting gallery challenges. Perfect. I can get S rank, but I cannot get like the 100%
Uh,
as far as getting all the targets and getting the triple star rating. I only get 2 stars, S rank. That's it. And I'm like, you know what? That's it. I'm good enough. I'm not going to waste any more time. I spent a little too much time trying, like, just grinding. I'm like, yeah, I can't do it. So I'm not sure. Part of it is, or most of it's probably me. And I'm thinking just a little bit still. From what I've been seeing, PlayStation is a little bit better as far as that dead zone shift. So, but the gameplay is also phenomenal. It has a lot of great, uh, new enhancements, but at the same time, the ammo is more scarce, which makes it much more of a tense game. They made your knife disposable, which I really don't like. I don't know.
You
I
mean it
like that. It's like
breaks?
that's why you took away my security blanket. So
So like it
the
breaks?
night, yeah, it has a degradation system on your main knife. You can repair it and you can upgrade the knife so you can make it
Okay.
stronger. And then you can actually get like you find like kitchen knives on the floor, kind of like around so you can use those and those will break, and that's fine. At the same time, though, I was just like, why can't you just give me my unlimited knife? It's an unlockable later on, for a new game plus type of thing. So I'm like, all right, that's fine, but I don't know. I don't like it in Zelda. I don't like it in anything else where you make my weapons break on me. I mean, I don't, like ammo scarcity. That's common. I mean, Dead Space had that, and it just makes you play a little more tactical. I mean, on the other hand, what should be a quicker game for me, at least 4 is much quicker, the original. But this remake, I'm much more methodical because of the ammo scarcity, and I'm going around checking every nook and cranny, even more so, trying to make sure I pick up everything. So I really feel like I've put in, I don't know, I think like 6 to 8 hours, and I feel like I should be much farther than I am.
Uh,
I should be closing endgame. Speedrunners would have been done by now. So like I said, I'm only about halfway, and I'm like, the castle. I'm like, from what I remember, that game is actually longer than I remember. That when I recently played it on the PC not that long ago, a few years ago, and I'm like, wow, this is longer than I remember it to be because the castle just drags on for a bit, and then you got the island, and you got different sections. I'm like, yeah, but honestly, by now I should be almost done with the island. If I was playing it on PC or playing the old, GameCube version. So uh, that's just because, like I said, I'm just going step by step, checking everything. Plus, it's also just new enough. I like the fact that they have some nods to the original game. I remember that there were like birds' nests, just random like birds' nests in the game. Then you can shoot them, and you'll have like gems inside. Some of those are still around, and they've done a couple neat homages to the first game. But yeah, overall, it's I still think it's worth playing, especially for those who never played the first one. Just pick this one up. It's if you want to play the old one, fine. I mean, it's still an excellent game. But I just really like the visuals of this one too, and I like the load features. I mean, if you happen to die or if you happen to fail on something and you want to reload, you get upset, you just boom. And so yeah, I'm enjoying this game. I'm probably gonna have to play this one to completion, and then I really hope I get back to Dead Space, but I don't know if I can right now. I just because God of War is still there, just mocking me, just being like, "Come on." So
so did you? So you haven't finished the story of Dead Space, or you?
nope. Well,
Yeah.
I've
Okay.
beaten the game in the past, but
Well, yeah, but
I have
you wanted
not.
to get through the
Yeah,
into this one. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that God of War is just waiting for you. But for me, I've kind of decided to try to go through games, and whenever I move on, I'm kind of really done with them. Like I'd like to get back to Hogwarts a little bit and do some of the cleanup there, but I also finished the main story, so I could, I made sure to finish the main story before doing anything else, so I could, kind of be like, well, I'm done with it if I want to be. Um, so yeah, but you gotta make that choice for yourself. Well, anyway, that sounds good, man. Resident Evil 4, I probably will not get to it, unfortunately, but
but
I'm
you're a
glad that you're
scaredy
enjoying
cat
it.
when it comes to most horror games, if I
I
remember correctly.
am
Like
I am
the
a
original
scary cat.
Bioshock, I remember.
Even the
Yeah,
original Bioshock is kind of chilling to me, but
it is a great suspenseful game.
it
I really
is
like the first one.
it is very suspenseful. But yeah, so uh, I, it's also kind of a money issue. I don't know if I want to spend that amount of money on that, but yeah. Anyway, so I'm glad that you're enjoying it, and let
I'm
us know.
checking them out from the library, dude. That's what I've been doing on the consoles.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Yeah. So I think that's gonna do it for what we've been playing, right?
Yeah, I mean, unless if there's anything else you were mentioning, but You've eventually finished up a new series, you finally got around to the third season of.
So Mandalorian season 3 just ended like uh, yesterday, today, somewhere in there, as we're recording this. So it's yeah, it's done. Um, People are mad about it. Like everything on the internet, somebody's mad about something. Um, I don't really know how mad they are, but kind of going through Mandalorian season 3, I can kind of see why people might be upset. It's kind of just it's just Disney Star Wars. That's the problem. Andor, which I think I talked about on this podcast a while ago, was really good. Andor was it definitely had some faults, but for the most part, it was serious and it didn't really feel like it was made for kids. It felt like it was made for adults. It had a lot of interesting twists and turns that didn't really pander to silly comedy or anything like that. Um, so with Endor, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. This is pretty good. Obviously, a much more serious kind of topic within Star Wars in general. But Mandalorian season 3, it's not bad. It's got a lot of good things in there. It's got a lot of good story points, a lot of good plots, good action. But, throughout the show, some places more than others, it just kind of shines through with a lot of little kid stuff. The actions seems kind of silly sometimes. The bad guys just sort of fall down. They're pretty tropey.
You're saying that the show that brought us Baby Yoda isn't serious?
Did you watch the first season of Mandalorian?
Of course not.
Yeah.
I gave up on Star Wars before that. I just know that they made all the money off of that one character and the merch to fuel the series for like 5 seasons at least.
Yeah, they
Off
probably
just the
do.
one character.
They probably do have at least that much.
Bumper stickers alone. I mean,
so with like the first and the second seasons, it was like Baby Yoda was there, but he was not yet a piece of merchandise. At least the show didn't know that he was a piece of merchandise. It was like there's this very serious guy with a hard shell of a personality, and he has to kind of overcome that and sort of start becoming more like a father, and to this Baby Yoda thing. And also there are other problems and stuff like that. And with this season 3, there's just like the seriousness is just gone. It's every episode is very light, and you're like, well, they're gonna get out of this one, which you always know that, but I don't know. Like, I wish you'd watched it because, or if you watched season 1, 2, and 3 back to back, you might even see it more pronounced, or maybe not. I don't know, but I think that you would see like the tone is changing, for toward the more lighter side, and that would be fine if it wasn't
unintended.
Yeah, to the lighter side. Yeah, funny. That would be fine if it was not so obvious that they were trying to sell toys or trying to, it just sucks. Like, I have heard some people say that Jon Favreau, the showrunner, that he's kind of that he's being watched by the suits, and that so he's kind of checked out because of that. I don't know about all that. I could see how
I don't know.
that's.
I really like him as a director and as producer. He
I know
usually does really good stuff.
that's
So
what I'm trying to
I didn't
say.
realize. I actually didn't realize he was attached to this.
Oh yeah,
So yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
He. They gave him apparently they gave him Mandalorian, which is a pretty big ask. It's like even before Boba Fett, they were like, we're going to start a Mandalorian thing, and they gave that to him. So he must have impressed somebody along the line, and turned it into Star Wars most popular property. Um, so I believe when the first Mandalorian aired or was being shot, at least, the Rise of Skywalker had not come out yet. So my conspiracy theory is that all the suits had their eyes on Rise of Skywalker, and they were like, we got to get this movie out, and then Mandalorian is probably being made and no one's really paying attention to it. It comes out, it blows up, everybody loves it. Everybody hates Rise of Skywalker because it was hot garbage. And so it's like, well, that's done. And so now all the suits, I would think, would be like, all right, we need to turn the Eye of Sauron to the next most likely thing to make us money. And lo and behold, that's the Mandalorian. So I don't know. It definitely was not as good as the previous two seasons. It finishes an arc that's like, well, I guess they have somewhere they can go with it, but definitely a overall downturn in terms of quality of the show.
Well, I'm genuinely like sorry to hear that you're disappointed in it. I mean, I actually don't relish in the fact that things people like suck, but at the same time
So it's
I feel like they've been muddying the waters on a lot of these things. And yeah, I mean, yes, it's a Disney, you say it's a Disney Star Wars. But Star Wars is never their a lot of their stuff that's been licensed for movies slash TV. I don't really see a lot of it as being serious. I mean, their extended universe was always more, interesting than their actual like canonical stuff. Hence the reason why Knights of the Old Republic was phenomenal because you can go places where you could never do in a movie or a TV show. So that's why I always found Star Wars as a whole, that whole universe, I find fascinating. But as a as the films have gone on, I've lost interest. So
to me, it kind of all started with the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi. That is the first point that it seems to me where they were like, hey, we could put something kind of dumb in here and sell a lot of stuffed animals to kids along with the action figures and stuff like that because but even that was like played very seriously for everything that was not specifically Ewoks.
I mean, they made their own spin-off cartoon show.
Oh yeah, and who's that marketed to?
I mean, and it still made money. No,
I don't deny that. I don't deny that. That's yes, they wouldn't do those things. They wouldn't make stuffed animal characters if they couldn't make money off of them. That's clearly what they're trying to do. I guess the problem that myself and a lot of other people have with it is it detracts from the overall experience of the thing that we're there for. When you see an Ewok or you see, I mean, even a Baby Yoda, which I think was done fairly well, but is kind of slowly being turned against us. But if you see something like that, or like the break the animals free section of episode 8, when you see something like that, it's just like,
forgot
okay,
about that.
gosh, that didn't bother me that much whenever I first watched it, but then I watched it again and I was like, this is so stupid. Like this is just
I actually
horrible.
really hated the forced relationship in that movie.
Yeah, between
I think that
Finn and what's her name?
yeah, and it really felt really forced, awkward, and I despised it. I think that's where I really checked out. I'm like, I liked the previous one before that. I don't even remember the name anymore. But for
Force
all like
Awakens.
yeah, overall as a whole, I thought it was okay. I mean, I didn't like certain parts, but and I never liked Kylo Ren's character being Han's kid because I'm like, he looks nothing like his parents. Like
Yeah,
he looks like he was found on the stoop. That is, he is not related genetically to them.
yeah,
Um,
it doesn't.
but I mean, other than that, it's like, there was things to dislike about it, but over as a whole, I remember walking away from the movie theater, being like, yeah, okay, yeah, I liked it. I thought maybe it was fun, and I thought maybe they'd have the series would be good, and then the second one, when episode 8 came out, I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I watched the third one, or episode 9 as out of
Ooh.
obligation, and yeah, that's I'm done with. That's kind of when I was I was kind of like, oh, yeah, I'm done with the series. I think I watched a few other small things here and there. I'm like, yeah, all right,
Yeah,
all this meets my expectations, um, which isn't very high. So
yeah.
that's kind of how I feel about the series.
I mean,
That's I know you mentioned the Mandalorian being good a long time ago, and I know you really liked. I know you weren't impressed by Boba Fett, especially compared to the Mandalorian at the time. So I just it's one of those things that the franchise is I'm kind of done with. But like I said, I find the universe really neat,
yeah,
and I'm actually more hopeful for interesting video games instead, opposed to the actual other medium.
yeah. With the EA games that are coming out. What is it called? Something Jedi. Uh, what's the new one coming out called? You played the old one.
Um, the shoot, I forget now.
Anyway,
It's supposed to be filling in the gaps between them, and it was the Dark Souls of Star Wars, and I can't remember what it's called now.
yeah.
Um,
Like,
I mean the first one was good. The second one will be, I think, will be better.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, now they know they can make. Now they know it'll sell. I think EA probably going to put a little bit more oomph into trying to make that game, even better than before. But for like Mandalorian, like it's not like season 3 is not a bad show. It's
Fallen
just
Order was the one that we were looking up, and it's Survivors is the new one.
okay.
Or
Fallen Order,
Survivor.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mandalorian season 3 is not a bad show, but it's like going from a show that you're watching that's an 8 to a 7. You're just like, this isn't bad, but it's just not nearly as good as. I mean, there's a long way between a 7 out of 10 and an 8 out of 10 to me. That's a pretty big. I think there's actually easier. It's a shorter distance between 6 and 7 than it is from 7 to 8 to me. But that's just the weird way I think about it. Anyway, so it's not a bad show. It's just not as good as it's been in the past.
I mean, I I don't know. Like I said, I'll stick with the games. Star Wars Unleashed was fantastic. I remember that being a great game too. It was nothing like bringing down a story with your own bare hands. Um, Literally force pull. I mean, that game was pretty cool. The second one, not as good, but I mean, that's kind of what killed the series there. They have so much good ideas for the universe and good, it's unfortunately what may or may not be canon. I think if you go with something off the script like the games, you have so much freedom to do whatever you want and to make something really neat. While when you're stuck to a movie format, you're really limited. And TV shows, you're theoretically a little bit more free, but once again, you have a lot more higher ups that you're constantly having to answer to. Uh, so yeah, unfortunately, I'm sorry that season 3 did not end so well for you. Hopefully, season 4 would be better. I mean,
Let's
I'm
hope.
assuming they're going to continue making this as long as they can. So
Yeah, I think they probably will. They probably will go about 5 seasons, I would imagine. But you never know if there's a big drop off at the for season 4 in ratings. They may not. But there'll be Andor season 2, and they'll keep making. They've got a couple different other shows that they'll eventually hit the jackpot again because it's Star Wars. I mean the like you said, like the world is really interesting. All the rules for everything is is great. Everything is just ready to have a great story come out of it. But you still have to understand the fundamentals of storytelling, and you still have to capitalize on those in order to make a good show.
All right. Well, on that note, we are done. There is nothing left unless if there is anything you want to go out on.
Nope, that's I've said my piece.
Okay. Uh, well, my child is too young to watch this, but maybe in the future, they'll see this, and I will give a shout out to them because his birthday is coming up. So yeah, happy birthday, and to anyone else who has a birthday in April, happy birthday to you. Next podcast will be, everyone's favorite holiday in May, and that's Children's Day in Asia. No, nothing else, just known as Children's Day around the world.
What day is
I
that?
guess a little something called Cinco de Mayo. Uh,
Okay.
so
uh,
yes, expect to see Nick completely lit. Yeah,
Semi lit.
it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Cast. All right. Well, thanks a lot for staying to the end. And until then, next time, take it easy, guys.
All right. Bye.